The big thinker is Thucydides. Thucydides was the father and founder of history. So Thucydides' trap is the dangerous dynamic that occurs when a rising power, like Athens or Germany 120 years ago in the roll-up to World War I, or China today, threatens to displace a ruling power, the U.S., in the current situation after the end of a 20th century that's frequently called the American century. So when a rising power threatens to displace a ruling power, in general, poop happens. I look at the last 500 years, I find 16 cases, 1/6, in which a rising power threatens to displace a major ruling power. 12 of those cases end in war, 4 of them in not war. To say that war between the US and China, therefore, in terms of the concept of Thucydides' trap, is inevitable, would be wrong on its face. 4 of the 16 cases was no war. So if you look at my chart, it's got 12 war cases and 4 no war cases. But to say that the odds are against us would not be an exaggeration.
When the only constant in life is change, you need to be ready. This is the Man-Made Survival Show.
Hello everyone, my name is Jose Prado with Man-Made Survival. Thanks so much for coming back to the channel and watching this video. I greatly appreciate it because the information that I'm going to be sharing with you today is really important, especially the preparedness part, because I'm going to be sharing how to make a plan, all right, and the things you need to consider, because this is the most critical step in order for you to have a successful plan of survival, which is sadly the one point that a lot of people get wrong. All right, so I encourage you to stay all the way to the end so you can get the information for the preparedness and all the articles that I'm going to be reading today. All right, so that's why I need you to share this with your friends and family so you can start the conversation on the preparedness part and get them on board. And also I encourage you to subscribe to the channel, to leave a comment, like the video. That way the algorithm can put me in the front of the line and people can get this life-saving information. All right, but before I go any further, I also want to remind you that I have a book that I'm giving away for free. It's Preppers Secrete Cache. You can go to www.prepperssecretcache.com, or you can just click the link below. The book is absolutely free. All we need your help is with shipping. And also we have a store, the Man-Made Survival Store. You can go to manmadesurvivalstore.com and you can get all the preparedness items that you need, you know, whether it's a nuclear bomb or an EMP or even, you know, just buckets of food. Everything is there. Also the bug out bags. So I encourage you to go to manmadesurvivalstore.com and get the supplies that you need for you and your family. All right, so let's go ahead and get into this. I want to start off with the preparedness because it's the most important part and I don't want anyone to miss it. All right, so a lot of people, when they make their plan, you know, they think, all right, I'm going to need food. I'm going to need water. I'm going to need weapons. I'm going to need ammo. I'm going to need communications. All that is wonderful and it's exactly what you need, but it's not the first step for you to take. All right, when you make your plan, you have to make sure that you know who's going to be in your alliance right off the bat. All right, you need to know exactly who's going to be. And there's a way to avoid you thinking, you know, all right, is this person going to be in it? You know, John is going to be in it. Philip is going to be in it. Oh man, I forgot, you know, Maria in it or whatever. There's a way to start off so you can know exactly who's going to be in it. All right, because one of the things that a lot of people ask is, what are you going to do when your family member comes knocking on your door? You know, it's something that a lot of preppers talk about all the time. And, you know, a lot of people are going to, a lot of people's response is, well, I prepare you didn't, so go away. That is not really the right way to go about it because there's a lot, there's a big fallout on that, all right? It's a correct way to actually approach this. All right, so in order for you to be able to have written down exactly who you're going to need, or not who you're going to need, but who's going to be in your group, is by starting off with your family. All right, so let's say you're a man, right? And you're sitting down in your kitchen table, and everybody that's around you in your kitchen table They're the people you have to take care of first, right? All right. So let's say it's a family of 5. It's the husband, the wife, and the 3 children. Okay? So if you're the man making the plan, you're going to think, all right, my wife has 2 sisters. All right? And the first sister, she has a boyfriend but not children. All right? So that means it's 5 plus 2. Then she has another sister. She's married and she has 2 kids. All right, so now it's 5 plus 2 plus 4. And then that's how it's going to increase. Then you got to think, right, now I have 2 brothers and 2 sisters. It's 5 of us in the family. This brother has no wife. He's single, so on and so forth. That's how you write down everyone down, and you can have an accurate head count on how many people it's going to be. After you go, then you do your parents, then their siblings and stuff like that. Now, I want to touch on friends real quick, because that's where a lot of people are kind of confused on whether or not they can trust a friend, all right? And the best way that I have described it to other people when I help them with this is that you can trust that friend if that friend, when there's a birthday party, they go to your house, you go to their house. When there's a vacation, you'll go together, maybe even work together. You go to the same bars, stuff like that, all right? They're very close friends. You know their families, you know their siblings. You even know their mom, right? And y'all have actually been together. That's how you know when a friend is close enough for you to include them in the plan or include them in the alliance. And then you have workers, or not workers, or you have co-workers who you just see during work hours, and when you get off, you don't talk to them or anything like that. But you're really good friends in work, that is not going to work, right? They're gonna have to stay outside of it. You can present them with their opportunity to be in the group later on, all right, but not yet. So once you have written down everyone who's gonna be in your group, in your alliance, all your friends, all your family members, all the extended family, then you can say, all right, I'm gonna break this down into 3 sets of people. The first one is gonna be all the adults, all the responsible adults. The second one is gonna be all the children, all right, and the cutoff age is 15. So anyone 15 and lower, or really 14 and lower, they're gonna be considered children. And everyone 15 and older are going to be considered adults. All right, they're going to have to help around and do several things. All right, and the third group are going to be the people who either are lazy, or they have maybe a disability. Because families do have disabilities, or families do have members with disabilities, and also there's unfortunately people who have addictions. This could be a pharmaceutical addiction. This can be a drug addiction. It can be alcohol. It could be whatever. All right. That's the third group. All right. Everyone in your group who is going to be the responsible adult, those are the ones you're going to approach, right? Like a big family reunion or whatever. Everybody comes and then you present, this is why I think we should prepare. This is what's going on. If something was to happen and you came over to my house, I wouldn't be able to feed you. And if I was to go to your house, you wouldn't be able to feed me. So that is why everybody needs to come together, make a plan, put finances together, and get everything we need for everyone, all right? Because now we have 10 people, and we need 1 gallon per person per day. That's going to multiply into a bunch of water, right? And then a bunch of food, too, for a whole year, and so on and so forth. All right, so those responsible adults are going to be the ones who are going to be responsible to actually carry the group along and actually help everyone thrive. All right, for example, one is going to be in charge of the gardening. Another one's going to be charged of keeping the animals, the livestock. Another one's going to be charged of security. Another one is going to be charged of educating the children, depending on what they actually already do for a living, that could actually be plugged into that and just fill in the gaps. All right. The third ones, the ones that have an addiction or are the lazy people in your family, because you know your family, you know who's the lazy people there. Excuse me. They're the ones who are gonna be pretty much the workers, I guess you can say. They're gonna be the ones who are plowing the ground and you know, cleaning the chicken coop or whatever. That's how you're gonna break it down. There people who are responsible, who are gonna carry the family along and make sure that everybody thrives and survives what's going on. Then everybody who's gonna be the worker, and of course the people who are responsible, they're gonna work too, but they're gonna make sure that all the seats are planned, that all the widths are taken care of, you know, stuff like that. And then all the children, whatever task they can help with, they're gonna do as well. You know, the older they are, the better, because they're gonna be able to understand what's going on and how serious things are, and never ever keep the truth from them, because if something happens to where your group is overrun, then they're just gonna be traumatized and things can get very bad, as opposed to knowing what's going on, and they know what the plan is in order for them to survive and everything that's going on. All right, that's how you make a plan. Once you have your alliances in place, then everything falls into place. All right, so just to summarize very quickly, you're gonna start off with your alliances, then you're gonna contact the responsible adults, and then from there you're gonna see who's gonna be in and out, and from there you're gonna know exactly how much water you're gonna need, how much food you're gonna need, how many weapons you're gonna need, how much ammo, you know, walkie-talkies, etc. And everyone is gonna put the exact same amount of finances. Everyone should put in it, because then people feel entitled to more things if they put more money into it. So if everybody can afford $100, then everybody puts $100. Even if some other people, and even yourself, you can afford another $300 or $400, you know. Everybody has to be the same, so nobody feels entitled to more. All right. Another thing that has to be established also is who's going to be the leader. And usually people who took charge of actually telling everyone to prepare wants to become the leader. But if you're not a good leader, then you have to understand that and actually step down and let someone who knows how to lead to actually lead. All right, so then you have to establish your rules, you know, like your own laws there. What's the chain of command, stuff like that. And who's going to be the council, where people take the time to actually make decisions, and it's more of a group kind of thing rather than one dictator of the family. All right, that's how you can make a successful plan. When you follow that guideline, it doesn't matter what it's for, whether it's war, whether it's economic collapse, whether it's a famine, whatever the case may be, that structure will work on any scenario. All right, so I hope you took notes. I hope you remember this, and I hope you apply it when you make your plan. Because, like I said, a few minutes ago, now the probability of going to war is not far off in the future, about 10 years. Now they're saying within the next 3 to 4 years. All right. So there's something that we have to consider, right, before I get into all the articles, is that one, the top 3 nations in the world, 2 out of 3, they have permanent leaders. For example, Xi Jinping, he's the emperor for life. He's going to stay there. Nobody's going to get him off the throne. Then Vladimir Putin, he's also going to be there for life until he dies, right? Or technically until he's like 90 something, and he's 67. So he's going to be there for another 20 years. The only wild card that we have is the United States. Now, if Trump wins the elections one more time, then pretty much what we have seen from the beginning, as far as the relationship between the United States, Russia, and China, it's probably going to continue being the same way. We're going to still be in the Cold War with the trade deal and everything. Now, if Biden wins, the possibility of everything cooling down is there. But when you consider that NATO is pretty much marking China as the enemy, then that kind of fudges everything up, and it still makes the possibility of going to war with China a reality. All right, so a few videos ago, I shared with you how one of the congressmen wanted to introduce a bill, saying that if China ever invades Taiwan, then we're gonna go straight to war. It's a declaration of war automatically, and we defend Taiwan with everything we got. All right, I'm gonna read you the headline so we can refresh our memory. Here it is. Republican congressman proposes legislation forcing declaration of war on China if Taiwan is invaded. This was from Zero Hedge. All right, so the reason I wanted to remind you of that one is because everything that's been happening over there, a lot of people are very focused on what's going on right now because very devastating things are happening in the United States. People are getting evicted out of their homes. There's people who don't have a job. There's people who can't even afford food, So there's a lot of things going on in the United States, enough for us to even be aware of what's going on over there, but still important what's going on over there. All right, so the next headlines that I'm going to be reading to you, it shows how things have escalated, all right? Here's the first headline that I have for you. Taiwan says China sending planes near island almost daily. This from apnews.com. China is sending military planes near Taiwan with increasing frequency in what appears to be a stepping up of its threat to use force to take control of the island, Taiwan Foreign Minister said Wednesday. Such flights are more frequent than reported in the media and have become virtually a daily occurrence, Joseph Wu told reporters. Quote, if the international society does not give China a sufficiently clear signal, I believe China will take that the international society will not impede it in doing other things. This is what we are extremely worried about. All right, so, of course, Taiwan reached out to the United States. The United States, reaffirmed that we're going to have their back if anything happens. And the way that we did it is by doing two things, all right, which is my next two headlines. I'm going to read the first one, then I'm going to jump to the second one. I'm going to read the article of the second one. Here it is. Exclusive. Taiwan talks to make first purchase of sophisticated U.S. drone sources. This from the NewYorkTimes.com. The U.S. military flies record number of planes near China's coast in July. This from news.antiwar.com. As part of Washington's increased military presence in Indo-Pacific, the month of July has seen a record number of aerial surveillance flights by U.S. military aircraft in the South China Sea and near China's coast. A Beijing-based think tank counted over 50 sorties by U.S. military aircraft in the region in the first 3 weeks of July. The closest flight to China coast happened in May, when a U.S. Navy plane almost flew within the 12 nautical mile zone of China's Hainan Island. SCSPI statistics show that flights by the U.S. planes within 50 to 60 miles of the Chinese mainland were frequent. All right, so the very first headline that I shared with you was that, that we are working into selling Taiwan pretty much the drones, the Predator drone. And we're working the details on whether they're gonna be armed or not. They're just gonna use it for surveillance, whatever the case may be. But the point is that just makes China very, very angry, because to them, since in the Chinese eyes, Taiwan belongs to them, helping them in their independence or actually staying independent, it's pretty much an escalation of sorts, right? They don't want the United States to butt in. They don't want them to sell them any arms or anything, even though Taiwan has a lot of our equipment. Just another, adding this to the list just makes Taiwan a little stronger, which of course makes China angry. Now, the second article that I read was about the planes, getting closer. Now, China was sending airplanes to Taiwan. We responded by getting even closer to their islands. All right, so we're playing, that tit for tat. So we're doing that. That has increased. Now, the rhetoric from the Trump administration, which in this case would be Mike Pompeo, what he said last week about China, it actually shows how everyone is thinking about them. As far as he's concerned, as the Secretary of State, probably the DOJ, maybe the DOD, and maybe even Trump himself. Maybe even the chiefs of staff. If they're ready to go to war, they're gonna be the ones who are gonna make the war plans and be, I guess you can say, shifting resources around. So everybody's gonna be in the same page if anything was ever to go down. So Mike Pompeo making these statements that he made, which I'm about to read you here in a second, just shows, right, how everything is going to one direction, right? Here's that headline. This is bigger than COVID, but few people are paying attention. This from sovereignman.com. Over the past several months, we've witnessed a minor trade dispute between the United States and China escalating into a major diplomatic conflict, and now into full-blown Cold War. U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo left no doubt about this when he essentially declared Cold War against China's Communist Party in a speech last week. Quote, "If we bend the knee now, our children's children may be at the mercy of the Chinese Communist Party, whose actions are the primary challenge today in the free world. General Secretary Xi is not destined to tyrannize inside and outside of China forever, unless we allow it. Richard Nixon was right when he wrote in 1967 that the world cannot be safe until China changes. Now it's up to us to heed his words. Today, the danger is clear, and today the awakening is happening. Today, the free world must respond. We can never go back to the past." All right, so it's pretty clear what he said. What he is explaining to everyone in that speech is that if we let China continue to increase, in their strength militarily, in the economy, in their influence around the world, then pretty much they're gonna take over the United States, which is something that a lot of people are starting to actually point out, right? That China has actually surpassed the United States in a few things, and we're actually headed to a time where a established superpower is being challenged by a rising superpower, which was explained in the video that I played at the very beginning of this video. So if we fall into that trap, the name is weird. So I was going to try to say it, but forget it. If we fall in that trap, where in history it has been said, or, they have actually found out that 12 out of 16 times when established power was met by a superpower ended in war, we can actually bet that we're probably going to be doing the same thing within the next few years, right? As I explained a minute ago, which I'm going to explain again, the Pentagon said that in the next 10 years, if we go to war against China, they would actually defeat us. So it would be wise for us, if we're going to go to war anyways, to do it while we're still strong, so we can defeat China and they don't take over, the United States, or to actually kick our butt. So the next headline that I have for you, it explains and it goes into detail, which is going to follow by another video, that it shows that within the next 3 years, they think that it's most certain that we're going to be at war against China. All right. So if it's at 3 years, what about 4 and 5 years? Like I pointed out earlier. So you can know, you can rest assured, I guess, for lack of a better term, you can know that we're going to be going to war in the next few years. So you must prepare for it, if you're able to. If this economic collapse is not the economic collapse that we've been waiting for, then you have about 3 to 4 years to be prepared, right? And that's going to include everything that I mentioned a minute ago, right? Your alliances, your food, water, your communications, your bug out location, your bug out bag, everything. And in the Batman Survival Store, we have the gas mask, we have the suits, we have the Geiger counters, we have everything. All right, and if we go to war against them, it's also going to include, or possibly, an EMP. So that's why it's important for you to prepare now that you have this information in front of you. All right, here's that headline that I wanted to read to you. U.S.-China military conflict deemed highly likely to almost certain over the next 3 years. This from newslink.net. A top independent Australia-based think tank, which regularly advises the Canberra government, has produced a risk assessment study, the likelihood of America and China going to war. Including defense experts around the world, the study was undertaken on the heels of the U.S. sending 2 strike carrier groups to sail through the South China Sea in provocative freedom of navigation operations. Air Power last week contracted major defense strategists around the world to undertake a risk assessment of military conflict between China and the U.S. They rate conflict in the next 12 months as likely, over the next 2 years as highly likely, and over the next 3 years as almost certain. All right, so all of that all that they have said is something that they have actually, looked into. And the video that I'm going to be showing you in a minute, it shows how China has actually surpassed the United States in some aspects, and they think that by the year 2024, China's going to have a bigger economy, of which they already do, but, the overall, I guess you can say, comparison between the United States and China is going to be that China is going to be greater than us in every aspect, but about 40%, right? So I'm going to let the professor explain to you, which is going to do a better job than I just did. Here it is.
This is taken from that. I have a quiz that I give the students at Harvard. It's got 46 indicators, but I give the short version in the course. When could China become number one? And there are various indicators, and then you have to guess the year. So largest middle class, biggest manufacturer of smartphones, fastest supercomputers, lead in AI research, number of billionaires. So 46 of them. Students at Harvard guess 2030 for one, 2040 for another one. Some say not in my lifetime. Then I show them chart 2. Chart 2 says already. So all those things already happened. In fact, most Americans, most probably British, don't know China is the single largest economy in the world today, measured by the yardstick that both the IMF and the CIA believe is the single best yardstick for comparing national economies, namely purchasing power parity. That was the big takeaway from the 2014 IMF World Bank meeting. But you won't read that in the newspapers. Okay, the second question, looking forward, the impact of the rise of China. This is a chart I made for a testimony I gave to the Senate Armed Services Committee in 2014. So I imagine the U.S. and China as 2 kids on other ends of a seesaw on a playground, and the size of each of them is the size of their GDP. So in 2004, China is about 20% the size of U.S. In 2014, it's equal. And on the current trend lines in 2024, it's going to be 40% larger. I think, whoa, why didn't somebody tell me this? So what was being debated in the Obama administration? The big initiative towards Asia, what was it called? The pivot and the rebalance. It was sometimes called pivot or rebalance. What was that about? It said, we've been spending too much effort in the Middle East fighting wars, so we should take some of our weight off of our left foot so we can put more weight on our right foot in Asia, where the future is going to be. And as I point out, while we've been debating this, both feet have just sort of lifted off the ground. So the impact of the rise of China on the U.S. and on the international order, I think you can see everywhere, every day. If you don't see China in your space and in your face, either you're not looking or just wait.
All right, so you heard already said, right? A lot of people do not like getting this type of information because they cannot fathom the fact that the United States is being left behind, because a lot of people have that American pride that, we're the #1 military in the world, we have the best economy, we're the reserve currency, and all those things, right? They'll bring you a laundry list of why America is great. And I agree with them. America, it's a great place. You know, we're having a lot of trouble here lately. But the point is that this has been happening for years now. It's not news, you know. It's just that a lot of people are not aware of it. And now that we have this possibility of going to war, is the reason why everything is coming out again, you know, because it has happened. It has come out in the past. So everything that has been going on with our economy right now, it has actually proven to other countries that we are not able to pay our debts. And the United States dollar is starting to lose its global currency, or its global reserve currency status, which is my next headline. And, you know, and because of that, there's a lot of consequences that come if the US dollar ever gets knocked off as the world's reserve currency. Here's that headline. Goldman warns the dollar grip on the global markets might be over. This from Bloomberg. Goldman Sachs Group, Inc. put a spotlight on the sudden growing concerns over inflation in the U.S. by issuing a bold warning Tuesday that the dollar is in danger of losing its status as the world's reserve currency. With Congress closing in on another round of fiscal stimulus to shore up the pandemic-ravaged economy, and the Federal Reserve having already swelled its balance sheets by about $2.8 trillion this year, Goldman strategists caution that the U.S. policy is triggering a currency debasement fear that could end the dollar's reign as the dominant force in global foreign exchange markets. Investors are worried that this money printing will trigger inflation in years ahead, have been bailing out of the dollar and piling furiously into gold. All right, so a lot of people are starting to see the warning signs, you know. As I've mentioned, or, you know, not as I mentioned, but as a title, one of my videos. One day there's going to be an economic collapse so great that not even the rich can get away from it. And that's exactly what Goldman Sachs is doing. You know, Goldman Sachs is a group of very wealthy people. And them seeing the danger in all of this, that's why they're getting out of the dollar and they're going into gold. Because they've known for a long time that gold is going to be the currency when everything collapses. Because when, like it happened in Venezuela, right? One ounce of gold here in the United States now, it's what? Last time I checked, $1,900. In Venezuela, the same ounce of gold cost about 13 million of their dollars. All right, so that's how great the inflation is. So when you have a bunch of gold, then you're pretty much okay, you know, if the government will trade with you or anybody else in the street. But the point is that if the United States loses its currency, you know, if the United States loses its place as the reserve currency, then we're going to see prices skyrocket. The more the Congress and the Federal Reserve print money, the worst is going to be later on. Like I've always said from the very beginning I started this podcast, we're on the road to Venezuela. You're going to see the same price increase that we saw in Venezuela here in the United States. But the only problem is that a lot of people in the United States have no clue what's going on. And not because the information is not out there, but because a lot of times they don't want to deal with it, right? Very sadly, we live in a society that we live from moment to moment. You know, with a lot of preachers like to call it the popcorn society. We want everything right there and then. We want it in the next 2 minutes, and we want it to be the best. So the next headline that I have for you shows how everyone that matters are starting to decouple from the dollar, right? Here it is. Russia-China de-dollarization reaches breakthrough moment as countries ditch greenback for bilateral trade. This from Zero Hedge. The collaboration between Russia and China in the financial sphere tells us that they are finally finding the parameters for a new alliance with each other. Many expected that this would be a military alliance or a trading alliance, but now the alliance is moving more in the banking and financial direction, and that is what can guarantee independence for both countries. The process gained further momentum after the Trump administration imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, whereas previously Moscow had taken the initiative on that de-dollarization. Beijing came to view it as critical too. Quote, only very recently did the Chinese state and the major economic entities begin to feel that they might end up in a similar situation as our Russian counterparts, being the target of the sanctions and potentially even getting shut out of the SWIFT system. Russia has considerably more decisive position towards the United States than China does. Russia is used to fighting and it does not hold negotiations. One way for Russia to make China's position more decisive, more willing to fight, is to show that it supports Beijing in the financial sphere. All right, so pretty much what that is saying is that the other two major superpowers, which is, of course, China and Russia, they are getting rid of the dollar because the United States overplayed their hand with sanctions. You know, whatever they did that we didn't like, bam, sanction. You know, you breathe the wrong way, sanction. You know, you charge me 2 extra cents, sanction. So, of course, that really made the Russians angry, and they started looking for ways to get out of the dollar. And then, of course, that brought pretty much China, or dragged it into the whole fight when Trump was doing sanctions over everything with the trade deal and everything. So us doing that is making other people around the world change their mind and actually get out of the system. And when that happens, when we have no control over them in that way, then the next step could be a war, because the best tool we have for peace is the sanctions. All right, we did it to Iran, we did it to Venezuela. And what did Venezuela and Iran do? They teamed up, they sent each other oil, even though they don't pay each other through the dollar. They use a different system. And because Iran and Venezuela dare, to go around the sanctions, the United States has actually threatened to sink the ship that Iran is taking to Venezuela with oil. So if Russia and China starts doing the same thing, that the possibility of United States taking the same approach of, doing any type of retaliation like the United States trying to do with Iran, then it's going to be the exact same way with Russia and China, which of course that just makes things a lot worse, and that can make us go to war with them. All right. So that is why it's important for you to get prepared. Sadly, like I mentioned already, a lot of people are being devastated right now with what's going on with the pandemic, with the stimulus package not being passed, losing their jobs and everything. The people are starting to be evicted. All right. If you're still one of the people who still has a job, who's still, bringing the same amount of money you did before the pandemic, then you're in a good position, because now you can continue to be the same, hopefully, through all of this. And you have 3 to 4 years to prepare for a war against China. All right. There's a lot of things you have to consider, but I'm going to talk about that in another podcast. All right. So I encourage you to come back. Again, my name is Jose Prado. Please share this with your friends and family, especially the first part, because it's the most important part about preparedness. All right. So please visit the store, MadmanSurvivalStore.com. You can rest assured that when you make a purchase through my store, part of the profit goes to help homeless people and help the orphanages. Because one thing that I have, that God has put in my heart, is that I have to help them. Because if we were to suddenly get nuked, what would happen to all those children? And I want to be able to help them to at least survive if no one else can help them. All right. So please make a purchase to the store, and you can rest assured that people are going to benefit from your purchase. And also, I'm giving away the book, Preppers Secrete Cache. So please go to preppersecretecache.com. The book is absolutely free. All we need help is with shipping. But anyways, get prepared. Don't delay, because time is very short. And again, my name is Jose Prado. Always ready.
Man-Made Survival Show.